Hello, welcome back, my friends. It is so good to see you all. It is May 8th, 2019, and this
Is Mr. FatFist bets, picks, and motherfucking predictions. Excuse my language. Alright, guys. I apologize about being absent the last couple weeks. Not last week, but the week before. I went to UFC Sunrise, Florida. Jack Hermanson versus Jacare. Cashed that big. Well, not big, but plus 160 underdog on Jack Hermanson. Thank you, Jack. Holler out. That being said, that wasn't the best part of the weekend. Me and my buddy Dorian, we went to the weigh-ins Friday to check how the guys' weights were and whatnot. And we bumped into a buddy of mine, Pat, and I guess he was going to the Titan FC fights down the street because Dana White was in town filming Dana White's looking for a fight. He got us some front row tickets, and we sat within, I would say, 8 feet of Dana White, Dean Thomas, and Matt Serra as they filmed the show. Let me tell you something. Matt Serra, great guy, came over to us, started chopping it up in between fights. Went to go take a piss, and next thing you know, I look over, it's Dean Thomas, and he looks over to me, he goes, "Hey, it looks like we're crossing swords here. A little sword fight." It's a funny guy. He started cracking me up. We bumped into so many UFC fighters. Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts, Jared Flash Gordon, who else? Luke Rockhold was there. The champ, Dustin Poirier, was there with his family. Shoulder to shoulder with him, just chopping it up like a normal person. I mean, they're all normal people at the end of the day. They're just fighters. The beautiful Ashley Evans Smith bought her a drink and then bumped into her again later, and she bought me a drink. It's my claim to fame right there. She's one beautiful lady out of the cage. Not that she's not in the cage, but she's looking a little bit better out of the cage. She was with the beautiful Lauren Mueller, also a UFC fighter. There's a bunch of people there. That being said, let's get right into the first fight. All right, we got Clay Guida versus B.J. Penn. At this point in B.J. Penn's career, he's washed up, and I hate to say that. I hate to say those words, but B.J. Penn is washed up. I mean, Clay Guida is at the end of his career, and he's gonna mop up B.J. Penn, and as the odds show at minus 600, it's justifiably so. You know what I mean? You can't play Clay Guida. I mean, if you want to parlay him, I guess that's safe. I don't see a way B.J. Penn can win this fight unless Clay Guida falls into some sort of triangle choke, or I don't even know. But yeah, at this point, B.J. Penn should not be fighting. He should not be inside that ring. I believe he's here to cash a check. All right, next up, we got Diego Ferreira versus Francisco Trinaldo. Listen, Francisco Trinaldo's no joke. He's a tough cookie. You know what I mean? He's a veteran, but I do believe Diego Ferreira is the supreme fighter in every aspect. Diego's been fighting well lately, and I believe this is a pretty easy pick. It's actually one of my main bets and plays for this weekend is Diego Ferreira. I got him a lot lower than minus 175, but I still believe minus 175 is playable, so I would jump on Diego Ferreira before he does. The odds do go through the roof because I do believe they're gonna get a lot higher by weigh-ins and by fight day. Next up, Irene Aldana versus Pech Correa. Excuse me, Pech Correa. I said it again. All right, Irene Aldana. She's a supreme striker over Betch. Betch is the UFC veteran. This is also hometown for her, so you got to watch out about those judges. This does go 3 rounds, which I do believe it's going to. You can at least guarantee one judge is going to give it to Betch, even if it's not justifiably so. But I do think Aldana does pull off the split decision, and the only reason why it's going to be a split decision is because it's going to be, Brazilian judges, favoring Betch. But easy pick, Aldana. At those odds, though, at minus 285, you can't play her straight. It's too much juice, especially going into Brazil. So that being said, it's Aldana, parlay or pass. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't put too much on that parlay. Like I said, she could get robbed, when it goes to the judges because it is going 3 rounds. All right, boys. Up next, we got Ronnie Barcelos against Carlos Huachin. Carlos, he hasn't seen UFC caliber fighters yet. Point blank, simple, end of story. He also hasn't seen all 3 rounds in I think his last 7 fights. But Ronnie Barcelos, in his last 2 or 3 fights, hasn't seen the final bell as well, and they're all W's. it's a very easy breakdown of this one. I do think that Carlos is, he's outgunned in every aspect. I do see this not going the distance as well. You can't pay Ronnie. You can't play Ronnie at minus 600. I don't even think you should parlay him as at all. As well, I honestly think in the situation, take a look at what the no distance or under 2.5 rounds is, and depending on what those odds are, depending on what the juice is, if it's playable, I would play it. All right, next up we got Ryan Spann versus Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira. All right, so basically in this matchup with Ryan Spann and all right, next up in this matchup with Ryan Spann and Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira, aka Little Nog, aka almost out the game. Uh, he's the worst of the two Nogueira brothers, and I mean he's had two fights in the last 3 years. One of them was a loss to Ryan Bader, who's no longer with the organization, but doing well over in Bellator. As you know, he's the champion. This kid Ryan Spann, he's from Dana White's Contender Series show, which is a very competitive show. What Dana White does is he signs a fighter or two each night. They all perform in front of him, and whoever has the best performance, he signs to the UFC. So Ryan Spann has already fought. I believe, he beat Henrique in his last fight. It was a decision, but he beat him all 3 rounds. He's still a little bit green, but he's not too green to beat Rodrigo Nogueira. Nogueira's just on his way out of the company. I believe they're just keeping him on right now because he's one of the Nogueira brothers. So it's an easy pick for me. Ryan Spann, especially at minus 150. Those odds are, in my opinion, great for Ryan Spann versus Antonio Nogueira. The only way Nogueira wins this fight is a freak submission. I don't see that happen. I see Ryan Spann piecing him up on the feet. But if it does go to the ground, that's something to watch out for. Antonio still has some crafty jiu-jitsu. My pick, minus 150, Ryan Spann. All right, next up we got a girl matchup between Talita Bernardo, Melissa Gatto. I don't know too much about Melissa. I do know a lot about Talita, and she is a up-and-coming star. As you can see, she's a minus 500 favorite, and I thought she would be more than that. I'm not playing her at minus 500. I'm not even going to parlay her. Anything can happen in these women's fights. But she will win this fight, and my pick is Talita Bernardo. All right, next fight. This could be a fight of the night. Two tough as nails. This is a 50-50 coin flip type of fight. We got the tough Thiago Alves against Laureano Staropoli. Honestly, I have no opinion on this fight. Well, I do. It's take a coin, flip it, heads or tails, and that's it. And in fights like that, you just can't bet. Sit back, grab your popcorn, grab your beer, and just enjoy it. You don't want to bet on fights like this because there really isn't no upside. I mean, it's a 50-50 fight. You get minus 115 for each guy, so you're not even getting underdog odds on one of the dudes. So pass on this altogether, but my pick is Thiago Alves to win. All right, next up is kind of an intriguing matchup simply because both these guys are coming from Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. And both coming to the UFC have not had a good go of it as of yet. As you can see, Thiago Moises lost to Benio Dariush his first fight in the UFC, and also Kurt Hollowbrow has lost his first two fights in the UFC. One to, I believe it was Shane Burgos, where he got submitted by an armbar, and the one before that he got knocked out by, I want to say, I'm not sure. It's coming up here shortly. Ronnie Barcelos, who's on the card tonight. That being said, both these guys' jobs are on the line. Whoever loses this fight, they're getting cut, or they're getting dropped down to Titan FC, or it's one of those, legacy fighting, one of those organizations. That's guaranteed. To break down the fight now, I like Kurt a little bit, but Kurt could get submitted by Thiago if it goes to the ground, or if he gets on top and gets lazy. But all-around athlete, Kurt is the better athlete. So I'm going to go with a slight lean here to Kurt Hollowbrow, but it's not a bettable fight in my opinion. I would stay away from it 100%. All right, we got the co-main event here. Jared Cannonier versus Anderson the Spider Silva. I don't think I've ever seen Silva underdog twice in a row. Well, it's been happening lately. He's getting old. I understand that. But Jared Cannonier's last fight against David Branch, I mean, he looked amazing. But then again, David Branch just got starched again by Jack Hermanson in his last fight. So, where does that really put that? Uh, I mean, he did look excellent, but is David Branch even a worthy opponent at this point? He did come in the UFC and beat the guy fighting John Jones next, but still. Anderson Silva just had a pretty entertaining bout with the Style Bender. Uh, that being said, man, I think I'm going to take Anderson Silva at plus odds against Jared Cannonier. I mean, before that, he had lost his last two fights. I believe they were to, let's see here if I could show you guys. Yep. Before David Branch, Dominic Reyes, who, is an up-and-comer star. And then Jan Blachowicz, which I know for a fact that Anderson Silva would piece him up. So I'm jumping on Anderson Silva at plus odds, plus 120. I do believe that those will even out when it gets closer to the fight, so I think those are the best odds you're going to get. So my pick here is Anderson Silva. I'm also going to play him as well. Last but absolutely not least, we got Jessica Andrade versus the champion Rose Namajunas. Now, I know a lot of people here are probably going to be jumping all over Rose at those odds. You see even right here, as you can see. But I wouldn't. This is probably the toughest and worst matchup for Rose. A gritty opponent, a little bit smaller than her, that just keeps that pace coming forward the entire fight. Yes, Jessica did lose to JJ Joanna a couple years back, but that's a whole different fighter. I mean, both fighters are different, stages of their life and fight game. That Jessica Andrade today would beat the Joanna of today. Yes, Rose beat Joanna twice, and if you do the MMA math, Jessica lost to Joanna, so automatically you think that Jessica Andrade should lose to Rose. No, it doesn't work that way. Matchups are everything. Okay, it's a bad stylistic matchup for Rose. I do believe it goes all five. This is also in Brazil. The judges will be leaning for Jessica no matter what. I don't care what anybody says. In Brazil, the hometown guy or girl, it matters. That being said, and new Jessica Andrade, 115-pound champion. Now, there's another aspect, I should say, you should look at in this fight. Where's Rose head at? Her nickname is Thug Rose. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, during that whole Conor McGregor and Khabib debacle, when Conor McGregor and his goons stormed the bus and threw a dolly through the window, I mean, she almost didn't fight that fight because there was some glass that got splashed her way. I mean, the mentality of a fighter shouldn't be to back away from a fight when something like that happens. You understand? So now she's going into Brazil, hostile territory. If you don't think that's hostile territory, that's as bad as it gets, is going into Brazil to defend or to take a title. I don't care what anybody says. Those fans there are ruthless. They will chant, "We want you to die," in their language over and over and over again. You will see it Saturday night. Again, though, my pick, Jessica Andrade at minus 130. I think those odds could get a little bit better when it gets closer to the fight. I think a lot of people are going to jump on that Rose Namajunas train. But again, pick Jessica Andrade. All right, guys, that's about it. I'm trying to change a little bit things with my podcast, make it a little more funny, more entertainable for you guys. I've been watching this guy, Jimmy the Bag. I don't know if you follow him on YouTube and Twitter and whatnot. He's hilarious. His podcast kicks ass. What it is, it's a live podcast that everybody can kind of get into and put their plays out there. We all talk it over and we go from there. You know what I mean? So I invite you guys to watch his podcast out. Just type in YouTube, Jimmy the Bag, 3 live podcasts a day. I'm pretty sure you'll love it. All right, guys, Mr. FatFist signing out. Let's cash these bets. DM me on Instagram at Mr. FatFist or on Twitter, Mr. FatFist, and you'll get my premium plays. All right, guys, let's cash these bets.